none of you guys and ladies look like you've been in a coronavirus pandemic for the last 3 months at all. Like, none of you. Second off, to answer your question, it's a little bit different, but I mean, it's the organization's making it somewhat seamless. I feel like the communication's been growing each and every day as far as, and we're learning what we need to do as well.
Hey Josh, as part of your continued transition onto the Twins, what were you able to do to continue to get to know your new teammates and your new coaches during the interim period? And is there anybody you got particularly close to in that time?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of people kind of went their own ways a little bit. It was kind of hard to know what was going on with everybody, but the coaching staff, we kind of kept up with each other. I was able to talk to Mitch a little bit, talk to a couple of the guys a little bit, but you know, there was some stuff that throughout the whole pandemic things that we were, you know, personally having to tend to as well. So it was not just, it wasn't all roses. We were kind of just like the normal public as well, trying to figure out housing. And then, you know, most of us in Fort Myers didn't have a home, so we were trying to get back, have our family and everything, make sure everything was going well there. You know, with the short supplies of some things, trying to figure out how to get those things. And but besides that, you know, I feel like we have a short time here in the next 3 weeks to really kind of, you know, be around each other and continue to go well.
Josh, what were some of the things you did over the past 3 or 4 months that kept you sane, productive, grounded, all the things everybody was trying to find little things for?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's a good question, Tim. It's good to see. First off, I mean, really, I worked out a lot, and I was able to, you know, it's a unique situation because for myself, I try to find a positive in everything. And the biggest positive and takeaway that I had from it is this is going on my 13th year of professional baseball now. And it's been like, if you think about the schedule, and for myself, making the playoffs 7 out of 8 years, and then in the minor leagues, I went every year as well. So it's kind of always been a shorter off season. So it's kind of, you know, you take a little bit of time off, and then you ramp back up for a month or two, and it's not really like it's hard to get a full development time in to really focus in on some skill sets. So for me, I try to take advantage of it, knowing, you know, that this was probably going to be a little bit longer than what we expected, and really try to work on some skills as far as running, jumping, some explosiveness type of things, knowing that I could go a little bit harder because I could have some time to recover as well.
There's some handful of guys that opted out. I think there's still guys who are considering that option. Ever cross your mind? What was that process like for you?
No, it hasn't really. I mean, I didn't know if we were going to be able to play or if it was going to get done to play. I mean, everything that we've, you know, all of us, not just players, but, you know, the entire world has kind of had this influx of information, and it's kind of been one day we don't know what's going on, then the next day it maybe. And so really I tried to not pay too much attention to it. But my job is to play baseball, and this is one of the things that I love to do the most in life, and to have the opportunity to come out here and play again. It's something that I would like to do.
Thanks, man. Go get him.
Thank you.
Hey, Josh, it's Corey Provis. Just a couple for you. Kind of going off Tim's question. Once camp ended and everything was shut down, where were you? Were you back home working out? And did you put the bat aside to focus more on kind of the plyometrics as you kind of were in this in-between period?
It's a good question. I stayed in Fort Myers for a little bit. I was closing in on a house in Fort Myers, so I wanted to make sure that that got settled. And then I went back to another home of mine. But the entire time, 3 to 4 days a week, I was running, throwing, and hitting. So it's a little bit different quality of work, being able to face some live pitching, being able to face, some of our coaches, and, having all the machines and everything that we have capable or at our hands here. But I was still able to kind of work on those things and continue to try to improve those as much as possible.
And secondly, from a defensive standpoint, in terms of shifting, the Braves last year as a team, they were near the bottom, and how often, and really the lack thereof in terms of shifting. The Twins were on the opposite side, that they were among the more extreme teams in overall shift percentage. Where do you stand on that, the dialogue? What's that been like with Tony and Frankie and the staff about your thoughts on shifting?
Yeah, Tony and Rocco, we've had several talks about it. And they asked me where I feel comfortable at. And, when I was in Toronto, we shifted a decent amount. And then last year in Atlanta, at the first half of the season, we were shifting a decent amount. And I think a lot of it has to do with what type of pitching staff that you have. And the second half of the season last year, we had a lot of guys that got some balls on the ground. But whether it was, and I feel like we had, with Ozzie, Dansby, and myself, we had some guys that could, and Freddie over there as well, who could cover a decent amount of territory. We were finding out probably the first half of the season that we were getting some balls hit through the infield that if we were in somewhat normal position, would be outs. Now, as I said, as I transition over here to Minnesota, the pitching staff's obviously different. And so the tendencies for certain guys are going to be different. I know that the Twins fully believe in an analytical system as far as shifting is concerned. So I'm comfortable being able to move over. I would prefer to try to be at third base as much as possible. That's just my own preference. I'm not a huge fan, for my own personal sake, I'm not a huge fan of shifting. But it's something that I am comfortable of doing, and we've, like I said, we've had several conversations, and it's going to be something that this organization really buys into. So if that's something they believe in, it's going to be a priority for me as well.
Do you feel like you're at your best if you break it down, going to your left, going to your right, or simply coming in? Do you feel, without looking at any of the analytical data, that one area you feel stronger about than others?
I feel like throughout the course of my career, I've done a pretty good job of coming in on slow hit balls, choppers. Backhand, I feel like has always been a very, probably one of my better plays that I've been able to make throughout my career. The forehand, I have some range, but there are tendencies that I have that, that is something that in my daily routine is that I have to be conscious of doing. But range has been a part of my game for a long time now, and I feel like I still have some explosiveness in me to be able to make those ranging plays. The difference with the shifting is just going to be angles. So knowing, if I'm playing shortstop in a shift or whatnot, the angle for a backhand throw is going to be different than angle from the backhand throw at third base. So it's something that I'm going to have to get some reps at. And that's what we have this, 3-week time to do.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Josh, considering all the training you have been doing, does 3 weeks feel like an appropriate amount of time, or does it still feel like it might be a little rushed?
Personally, my feeling of it is it's going to be enough. But I felt like I really stayed focused throughout this entire time on staying as ready as possible. Now there are some things, just general soreness going every single day that are going to transpire. That's part of the game. But I feel like I really was conscious of staying in good running shape and good physical shape throughout the time as best as I could.
Josh, I know when you first got signed, Mitch said he was excited to talk hitting with you. He's kind of a hitting geek himself as well. And you mentioned him earlier in your conversations. What's the development of that relationship been like since you joined the team and over the last few months?
Yeah, me and Mitch have kind of hit it off from early on. We've talked hitting a little bit, but it's more of our conversations have other things to do than just that. I'm interested. I always love talking about hitting. It's something that I'm very passionate about. So I'm sure we will have those conversations, and hopefully I can learn from him and he can learn from me as well.
Hey, Josh, what do you think is kind of going to be the focus of the team meeting coming up here?
I have no idea. I would say possibly just more communication about the guidelines and things that we're going over now, and kind of what is expected of us. Just continuing, because I think we're all getting new information every day, and it's probably maybe more just to write it home and to continue to have communication about it.
Do you expect that guys will push each other to kind of be accountable, just given how responsible you guys have to be to pull this off?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us have a shared sense of accountability for it. I think at the same time, we're here to play baseball, and we're here to train, and we're here to, do what we do. This is our profession, right? And so at the same time, we have to be conscious of the new parameters of everything, but it's not something that I'm in constant thought about. Man, I'm hoping I'm not touching somebody or something like that. I've been around people, and I feel, I don't know, I'm not that concerned right now with it. I mean, although it is a pandemic, I'm not trying to minimize it by any sense of the matter, but this is our job, and I need to be able to do what I need to do. If that makes sense.
Were you in the live group that hit off Barrios yesterday?
I was in the second group that faced him.
How'd he look?
Thought Barrios looked sharp. I mean, I was talking to Nelly about it. I was like, this guy was never a guy that I really enjoyed having at bats off of. He's very uncomfortable for a right-handed hitter. He's been adding a changeup, playing with that. Or I don't know if he's adding it, but maybe he's trying to develop that more. But I know that sinker, or not even a sinker, but more of a running fastball, tailing fastball, and the slider are two really above average pitches for him.
Can you speak a little to what, as a right-handed hitter, makes him such an uncomfortable at bat for you personally?
Well, honestly, he's one of those types of guys that if I was the pitching coach with him, he's not a guy that I would be like, hey, we want you to throw a lot of strikes, or have like ultra command. I mean, command is great. I'm not saying, or have the ability to continue to run balls in off the plate. I mean, as a righty, I just felt like it was very difficult to get comfortable off of him, because he kind of has that crossfire release point, and the fastball's running, and it runs hard in at you, and he's got some velo to go with it, and the slider really plays off that to where it's really makes as a hitter, what we will talk about is, there's a circle for the release point that we're trying to find and trying to bubble these guys into. And his ability to really get outside of the circle and make it larger with the two-seam running this way and then the slider going that way, it's really difficult as a right-handed hitter to be able to stay in on that and to be able to, either lay off that fastball that's coming in off the plate and the slider that starts at you or behind you, stay in on it, and then be able to put a good swing on it.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Josh, with it being 60 games instead of 160 like you're typically used to, does that change anything in approach, or if at all, knowing that there's just a little more, sense of urgency?
Yeah, I think you nailed it with a sense of urgency. I mean, from day one, every game matters. Not to say the 162 game schedule, it doesn't matter, because they all do. 2012 is a big reminder for me every year. We won the division in Oakland on the very last day of the season. So every game has always been important, but right now you're seeing some of these projections of some of these teams that probably shouldn't even be, that wouldn't even be in the equation to, have a chance to make the playoffs. But all it takes is a hot month, and you set yourself up perfect. So just as the other end of it, you get off to a hot start. If you get off to a bad start, it's going to be tough to overcome because you don't have the amount of time. So in this case, this year, it's not going to be, I would fathom that it's probably not going to be all of the best teams in the major leagues in the playoffs this year. You're going to have a couple sleepers that get off to a hot start, and it's going to be hard to make up that ground.
Hey, Josh, a lot of players have different emotions as they come into these camps. Mike Trout's been on the record saying he's not totally comfortable coming back given the pandemic. Andre Anza yesterday talked about how he left his family back in Miami because he didn't want to worry about them being here and him possibly being affected and spreading it to his family. Where are you on the spectrum here as far as coming into all this? And does it take a different type of mentality to prepare amidst everything that's going on in this country?
Yeah, that's a lot of questions right there. Let me try to, the first one, for myself personally, I know Mike Trout has stated this as well. He's expecting a child. I am as well. So it's very similar circumstances. So I understand the thoughts that are going through his head right now, and I feel that. I think at the end of the day, each individual has the right to make their mind up of what they feel is the best. I feel like at this spot in my career, I really feel like it's advantageous for myself, my family, and for this organization for me to be out there and play. Obviously everybody knows I signed a long-term deal with the Minnesota Twins this past offseason, and I want to be able to go out there and put the uniform on and help this organization as much as possible. And then to answer your second question, it's been difficult to at the very low, I'm trying to think of the right word. It's been difficult to every measure as far as what has transpired in the last 3 months and the last couple weeks. So it's tough to put into the words the emotions that go and that I know everybody has experienced from every side. And it's something where myself personally, I feel like the game of baseball and what it's always helped this country do is to get back and to be united and to, start, having the same passion for something. And that's really, the biggest thing I can remember is, 9/11, after the 9/11 experience. Now, although this is completely different, but there was a sense of, confusion, a lot of stuff that's going on out there, and baseball was able to kind of bring that back and bring perspective back to the country as a whole.
How much can being around teammates kind of help? If a guy's nervous about being in the middle of all this, how much can being with the team and being with teammates help?
Well, I think it's huge. I think it's huge for myself. I think it's huge for every guy in this clubhouse that, this is it's not our immediate family, but this is probably one of our main families that we have. We all, share the same passion. We share the same love for the game. And, we go through a lot of things together that, I would say a lot of people do not experience or are not able to experience. And that really forms a lot of close bonds, and it's strong bonds too.
So one last question before Josh gets going.